couple updates here. Diana Rossini of The Athletic, she was out there getting interviews, and she talked to a million different owners at this owners meeting this last week, and now she was able to basically unload her notebook. And we don't get to talk to Jimmy Haslam. The media doesn't, all but maybe 2 times a year. He just does not speak to people often, and we got some updates. Shedeur Sanders, by the way, we have an update later on today at the injury report at 11:30. We'll find out his status for today. Is it going to be Bailey Zappi? Is it going to be Shedeur? Shedeur tweaked his back on Friday after practice. We'll find out if Shedeur is actually the backup quarterback or if, in fact, it's Bailey Zappi is elevated for today. Jimmy Haslam on Shedeur said, listen, he's a serious football player, and inside the building, there's no noise. He comes to work every day just like everybody else. He's trying to get better as a football player. And then he had mentioned how Dillon Gabriel has a longer leash, essentially, than what I think a lot of people maybe had recognized. I'm paraphrasing that last part, but the sentiment is there. The idea that when it comes to Dillon Gabriel and it comes to Shedeur Sanders, Haslam initially had said both would play this season. It seems like that's still on track, but it also seems like Jimmy Haslam is willing to give Dillon Gabriel an extended look here, Coach, to be able to showcase what he can and cannot do.
Well, the narrative that for both of these guys, if you just kind of put them together, the narrative that both of these guys can do it or can't do it is way too early for me. I think Dillon has shown some progression in terms of his poise, in terms of huddle control. He's made some good throws, but he's also missed a bunch. He's also protected the football, but then he misses deep balls. And there's pluses and minuses on his play. You would like to see more progression. And I've been asked, like, how many games? I don't really know if it's games. It's just, is there continuous progression? If you see progression stop, then maybe you go with Dillon. I think you go with Shedeur. I think the best thing that Shedeur heard this week, and it sounds weird, is that he's not getting any reps, because when he gets his shot, he's the guy who's going to want all the reps. That tells me the Browns are worried about winning, and their starting quarterback is getting the reps. That's important because it tells you the rest of the team that they want to win. If he doesn't play at a high level, like any other position, you have to put some pressure on him, and the guy behind him's got to make sure he's putting pressure on him. So I think they're in a good spot. You got to see some progression from Dillon, but I have seen some good things out of him so far.
Yeah, I mean, I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of those good things, because I agree with you in the idea 3 games is entirely too early. Nick and I went back and forth all this last week. I don't know how you feel about last week's game. I didn't think it was bad. I don't know how, when you go 13 of 18 and you don't turn the ball over and it's a rainstorm and it's 40-mile-per-hour winds, I just don't know how you can look at that and say he was awful. Yes, he missed throws, Coach. Everyone in the NFL misses throws. Like I know you're a film junkie. There are how many plays in a game that you watch where you could be like, if I slowed it down and just looked at an open receiver and said that's a miss, I'm going to put that at the quarterback's feet. And it's like, well, I can find 12 plays in any given stretch of football that I'm watching. I can find 12 to 15 plays of somebody just not seeing an open receiver and not being able to hit a ball and then saying, well, you missed a touchdown there. Like that I thought was a little unfair to Dillon this week.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think he was great. The word I like to use is you would like to see him be more impactful, right? He's not really, so he's not.
And that's right. That's a good way to put it. You want more impactful out of him, yes.
Yeah, so I don't think he hasn't cost you the game, like protecting the football, but he hasn't gone out and won it either.
No, but in a 31-6 game, I'm not really asking him to do much. I'm asking him just to basically don't vomit all over your shoes.
Now, the film session I'd like to be in is the one on Monday where you go in and go, all right, he missed that one, like you're talking about. Does he see it? Does he see what they did in coverage? And then next time they run that similar play, does he hit it? Because that's growth, right? It's not that he missed it. It's did he understand why he missed it? When he's in there Monday going, oh, they showed 2, but it was actually 2-man, and I should have went here. Here's what happened. And then all of a sudden, the next week, you see that same look. Now you have that progression.
All right, you want to make your money this week, Coach? Here's how you do it. Early, you got to find this either today or find this later on tonight. You got to find the throws that Dillon Gabriel hits this week that he missed last week. And if you can cut it up or even just look at it and say, this is the one he missed last week, and look at him hitting it here this week, that's growth, that's development, that's exactly what you're speaking to right here. I think a lot of Browns fans will not only be impressed by that, but I think that's also just really good content too. Like that's just from a content perspective, I think that'll be good. And maybe he doesn't though. Maybe you look at it and you say, oh no, he missed that one for the second straight week. Why isn't he connecting some of these dots? That's also good content for you as well. I'm just going to throw that out. We got a couple good content ideas.
Absolutely.
But you're hoping, at least my hope is that he then starts to hit some of the ones that he did miss last week.
Well, not only the ones is he missing, but the ones that he's hitting that he possibly can get to the next level. So you run that levels concept that everybody runs in the NFL. It was the first play I watched last week with New England with Drake May, where you got a guy low, middle, high. Well, he's usually hitting that low guy, and he's doing a nice job of hitting that low guy. But if they give you a look or an angle or a coverage where you can go to the second or third level, along with the first level, you'd like to see him stretch it. And that, again, is growth, saying, you know what, I know I got the first level, that's open, but let's see if I can stretch it a little bit and get that second, third level.
So obviously some of the other reports, I mentioned Diana's report on this one. Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network, in talking to Jimmy Haslam, said the 3 games for Dillon, not a great sample size as we're talking about, and the team does want to see more, as I mentioned, and Shedeur is making progress in practice, so we're going to continue to work with both those guys. It's just singing a little bit of a different tune, even though Haslam has been pretty consistent, all things considered, with the idea that both quarterbacks will play. It does feel like at least Haslam has bought into what Stefanski's plan is right now, and that we're going to see Dillon Gabriel for a little bit longer. Coach, we're entering the bye week, though. If Dillon doesn't get it done today, is it time to be thinking about making a move at the quarterback spot?
Well, I would, like any position, if you can get out of the idea that it's a rookie and Shedeur's behind him, it's if he's not performing and he's not that growth stuff that we won't know about, hitting the second level, is he seeing things? Is he able to get away from pressure? He's had some footwork issues in the pocket. Are those improving? If they are, then you say, we're going to continue to go with him. If it's regressing, then maybe you do have to think about not removing him permanently, but putting pressure. And that starts in practice. And I tell everybody, when I watch practice, which I got to every single day, they did a nice job with all, even people are like, there was 4 quarterbacks. They all got work, and then they got work after practice. So they understand what's going on. I think they have a plan. People who are Shedeur fans should be excited when he does get his shot, because they are wanting to win, and that the guy who's a starter is getting the work, and that's how it should be. You have to produce in the NFL, and there's no position more that you have to produce than the quarterback.
I think it'll be pretty damning if he doesn't produce today. I'm expecting the best Dillon Gabriel game we've seen from him yet, and it's not because I have some sort of utter belief in Dillon Gabriel necessary, or some unwavering belief that he's a great quarterback. I don't think that. I think he's a backup quarterback, but I think even backup quarterbacks could thrive against what this pass defense is, and I feel like if he doesn't pull it off today, and I know it's incredibly early, I get that, I understand all that. If he doesn't pull it off today, there'll be real alarms going off in my brain about what he could potentially do long term. And I'm telling you, he's not had the fairest of shakes, all things considered, relative to what his matchups have been. I mean, you're going to London for your rookie game. That's not great. You're playing in 40-mile-per-hour winds in week 3. That's not great. You're Steelers in a field that has been called by both sides, Steelers and Browns players, unplayable. Like, he has not had an awesome entry point into the NFL for trying to thrive, but today is that type of game where the conditions are going to be perfect. Foxborough's field is taken care of. Everything's fine that way, and the pass defense is really bad for the Patriots. Like, you should be able to have a day if you're Dillon Gabriel, and if you're not going to be able to stretch the field, if you're not going to be able to throw the ball deep, I'm going to have real concerns about what the Browns are doing here at the quarterback spot.
Well, and that's fair because of this, because Vrabel is a Belichick disciple. They're going to stop the run. They're going to do everything I got to do to stop the run. So there's going to be some opportunities, because there's going to be people down in the box. They're also going to take away the short passing game. So he's going to have success today. He's going to have to do that, because Vrabel is a guy. They're going to take away the easy throws. They're going to stop the run. They're going to make you stretch the ball down the field, which I think he can do. And I know most people think he's back. I think he is a starter, and I think today is the day that you have to go out and prove me right, or prove you right, or prove whoever right or wrong.
I'm writing both ways today, by the way, because I've said that he's a backup quarterback, and I've also said today's a day that he should eat. So if he doesn't, I'm just going to lay this out for you, okay? If he doesn't have success, the win on my end is like, well, yeah, he's a backup quarterback. I mean, I told you guys for how long he's a backup quarterback. But if he does kill it, then it's like, yeah, I said all week he's going to have his best game. He should have his best game. See, in the business, there's no wording for what I've done here. Usually I find myself in the other end of it, where I put myself in 2 losing situations. I've somehow put myself in 2 winning situations, where at the end of this on Monday, I can turn around and I will have a I was right radio moment, because either Dillon Gabriel will step up and perform in this game the way that I think he should, because I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that can perform against this Patriots pass defense, or, Coach, he's going to look like the backup quarterback that I think he is. But you think he's a starter?
I do. I have since, if you go back, I think both him and Shador are starters, but I think what he did in college at the high level he did it, and the things that he does well in this scheme, I do. But he's got to go out and do it. He's got to go out and do the things that he did at Oregon.
Yeah, no question. We were talking about the Diana Rossini report that happened earlier on yesterday. She talked to all the different owners across the NFL, a lot of different owners across the NFL, and she also talked to Jimmy Haslam. And in regards to Kevin Stefanski, the quote in here is from Haslam: "A big trade we made didn't work out, and we're all suffering from that. Kevin, I thought, really did a great job of rallying the troops last week at a really critical time. You find out about leaders when things are bad, not when they're good, and he did a good job last week." End quote. I agree with that sentiment a lot of the time. The problem with that line of thinking is that when things got bad last year, Coach, things got really bad last year with the Browns. So if you're trying to find out who you have in a leadership, the very best times of Kevin Stefanski have been when things have gone well, and he's continued to basically capitalize on that. That's when Baker's taking you to the postseason, and then you're going up against the Chiefs 5 minutes away from an AFC title game appearance. When things are going well, I have never really worried about Stefanski. It is when things are going bad that I think we've had a hard time seeing whether or not he actually is a good coach, as evidenced by what happened last year. Now, if you're Haslam, maybe you're making the argument 2 years ago when Watson first got injured and the season started to derail, he rallied with Flacco, and maybe that overrides everything. I'm not sure. But you could tell Haslam put a lot of stake into what happened last week.
Well, yeah, it's very interesting. I've always been kind of critical on Kevin, especially when things are going bad, maybe to change his tone a little bit. But that's a credit to him, because then when he does last Monday, like he did, everybody's saying he was a little bit aggressive in the meetings. Yeah. When you do that, then it has more impact. So he's a guy who stays true to himself, and then he has, when he yelled and screamed, maybe that had a little bit more impact going into the game. I think a lot of it has, there's a lot, he's safe, he's not safe. I just know in the game of football, if you don't win, bad things happen. Bad things happen to coaches if you don't win. So no matter what happens, they've got to win some games. And they have, regardless of who their quarterback is, they have some winnable games over here in the next 2 months that I think they got to go out and win some of these games, regardless of who their quarterback is. It's great to have confidence in your coach, but in the NFL, I'm old, so I never understood how the coach doesn't have more impact on the players he gets, but that's fairly normal in the NFL. But as a coach, I would want guys to fit my scheme, to fit my stuff, and I don't know if I always felt like they were on the same page and aligned, him and Andrew Berry. I'm not sure if that's the case as much anymore. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is, all that's great. If you don't win, he won't be around. That's it.
And last week's win did a lot for him, you could tell. I mean, just in the conversations that I have Monday through Friday, and I'm sure the conversations you have Monday through Friday as well, I'm sure you picked up the same thing I did. It felt like Stefanski was on the hottest of hot seats imaginable, and then this last week, I don't think I took a single Stefanski should be fired call. And it shouldn't be that a 31-6 win and a drubbing of the lowly bad Dolphins just takes away everything that has gone wrong. But I think people are looking at the reality of this season. An incredibly hard 6 games to open up the season, and now you have an opportunity, before we kill them, before we destroy them, you have an opportunity in a game like today that if you can win this one, I'm calling it a BOGO with good reason, you win this one, the Jets are going to be a win then, and then all of a sudden you're a 4-5 football team 9 games in, and you have a lot more winnable games on the horizon. You have a Baltimore Ravens team that has been absolutely dead in the water. You have a Titans team that has already fired their head coach. On and on the list goes, and it looks like this team could put together wins, Coach.
Well, the thing you like about Stefanski through these hard times is that consistency. Then you don't panic. So if you're saying a coach is on the hot seat, what will happen with the coaches? He will put a lot of pressure on his coaches. He will put a lot of pressure on the team. They will be a lot longer in practice, a lot longer in meetings. Kevin's not going to do that. Kevin's going to stay true to himself, which helps in these situations because he's not going to press. So that's a credit to him. As much as I'd like to see him emotional at times, that's something as a coach, I've learned from Kevin Stefanski. You go, all right, I'm going to stay true to who I am because I'm not going to press. I'm not going to panic because my team will feel that. And I think that helps him a lot, especially in the situations like last week. Now, once again, moving forward, they got to continue. You're right. They win today. All of a sudden you see a light at the end of the tunnel and you can kind of drive towards that.
What's amazing about it is that if they win today, I almost feel like all the conversation about Stefanski being fired gets lifted and we just kind of move that away for not only weeks on end, it might be until you have a 2 or 3 game losing streak, if you even do have a 2 or 3 game losing streak, like the confidence that would exude off of winning this game and what it could do for Stefanski and his role within this team. Because if you make this team with this roster a 6 or 7 win team, This is not a very good football team, Coach. We see the problems at offensive line. We see the problems at wide receiver. Yes, I think it's a good defense, but there's a lot of problems on this team. You make this a 6 or 7 win football team, and all of a sudden people are back to thinking that Stefanski might know what he's doing.
Well, it kind of goes back to the Dolphins game. We all sit here and a lot of us felt that game was going to be close. The Dolphins were in rhythm. What it was, it's always after the fact. And one of the things I always told my coaches not to do, don't lessen the impact of the win over the Dolphins because they didn't play very good. They were a team that the Browns had to beat, and they went out and beat them. So I give them a lot of credit because this hot seat was really, really, really for everybody. I thought Dillon and they came through and they did it, and you can't lessen that. I know the thing is all the Dolphins stunk, and they did it against the Dolphins, an NFL team, and they went out and they handled their business again when things looked really bad for them. So I give them a lot of credit. Now, moving forward, once again, I don't think the hot seat, I think that's more us. It seems like every time Mary Kay or some people who are really, they don't think it's much of a hot seat. I disagree. I think you have to win in the NFL regardless. 6 or 7 wins, I think, is okay. But I think their goal should be more than that. And that sounds weird, but that's because that's how you win games. That's how you change culture. That's how you do. You go, we're going to win every game we play. That brings in
so if they win today, there's a lot more on the table, maybe.
Oh, the burger is tasting good.
What's your burger bet? 8 wins?
I said 9. I got to check with Nick. I think he was very confident with it. Whatever
don't tell Nick 9. Tell Nick that it was 8. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was less than that. To be honest with you, he was very confident with 5 wins. So, but they win today. That burger, I can almost taste it a little bit. So, yeah, they can get it rolling today, and then that helps practice. That helps everything. Everybody's off the hot seat, and then again, we're talking about football, not this other stuff.